Hey, everybody, welcome to this wonderful Wednesday, hump day version of the Marketing Happy Hour. I am here as one of your hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of Maximize Your Media, our digital agency, and Life Beyond Practice, which is our coaching group for doctors who want more free time, freedom, and funds to enjoy a better lifestyle by starting their own online business. And with me is...
I'm John Paduchak with johnpaduchak.com. Targeted Net Solutions is our digital agency. And, what else have we got going on over here, Doc? We've got
health broadcasters,
local marketing strategies, health broadcasters, and the 30-day live video challenge that you can find.
The 30-day live video challenge
on Facebook. Yeah.
It's so challenging. I'm sorry. I got sunshine coming into my face. It's like sunshine.
It goes away early now.
I used to like sunshine on your shoulders makes me happy, but I can light up my nose. Yeah, these are the imperfections with live broadcasting because you can never control anything, including the landscapers who are outside causing a ruckus, which they started, by the way, 5 minutes before we went live.
The beauty, though, of that is that people find that perfectly acceptable with live broadcasting. So,
well, they do. Yeah. I could have a kid running in here and sticking a lollipop on the side of my face, and it would be considered high-level entertainment.
Probably.
Except my kid is 13 now and 6'2", so that would just be weird.
Mine's 21 and almost that tall too.
So. And almost that tall too.
There you go.
Yeah. So today we were looking at, and this started actually. We were kind of actually hunting for a topic because we had nothing planned for today. And so my wife and I had a conversation this morning, the wonderful Maggie Unzueta of Mama Maggie's Kitchen, the Mexican food blog, which is just an awesome place. And we were talking about this. In fact, I think we had this conversation over Messenger, Facebook Messenger, because we live in different parts of the house. And we have two businesses. Actually, I'm working on my third business now, which is refining and rebranding. Rebroadcasting would be nice too. But rebranding my coaching program for doctors from Life Beyond Practice to an extension more of Crucial Business, which encompasses the Crucial Method, which you'll find out about later. Anyway. So we're on this Facebook Messenger going back and forth, and we had this discussion. I said, we talked about being self-employed and how everybody feels that being self-employed is the penultimate. It's the ultimate thing to have because you can quit your 9-to-5 job and be your own boss and work whenever you want to. And do you think that's true, John?
No.
And why not?
But, it's funny. It's funny you should say that and couch it that way, because I think most people, if they really realize what we go through on a daily basis and realize some of the challenges we have that just about break you on a daily basis.
Sometimes it depends.
Sometimes, it really depends. But we definitely have some things that just are really difficult. And
like losing your Facebook ad account.
There you go. That was 5 weeks ago, and I still haven't recovered from that. So, there are things that are kind of crushing that we go through on a daily basis. But the good news for us is we know how to deal with those things, and we know how to compartmentalize and take all that negativity and put it towards something positive. And that's something that takes years of practice and getting right. But being in your own business is not what most people think, and you have to develop the mentality or mindset for that to handle that.
So today, all I do when we do one of these broadcasts, I used to do absolutely nothing. Now I put stuff on Post-it notes. And so I don't know if you can read that, but being self-employed to me is often going from a 9-to-5 job to a 10 to midnight job. So
I don't do any of that either.
Yeah. But one example of somebody who's turning something into positive is Terry. Terry is here today saying that we're both blue. Hey, speaking of blue too, not Bluetooth, but I have the fish shirt on. John was wondering what this was, and it's not sharks, it's fish. So even though it's not Friday fish day, there is something fishy going on. And I think that has to do with the flaws that we find in being self-employed. And one of the things that we were talking about, actually Maggie and John and I have spoken about this too, is the idea of changing from, because self-employed means that you have a job working for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a job working for yourself. And there's a fine distinction because you are not a business owner, you are employed. And so I think that's a distinction that a lot of people see. What other things do I have here? Yeah, here, one more sticky note. Post-it is going to make a bundle of money on me. So yeah, employee versus owner and ownership. So what does ownership entail? There's the big question. That's the $64,000 question today. And this was brought to mind by, I thought about this from Eric Louviere, whom we both know very well.
Yeah.
And he had an ebook years ago, which was PLR, and I had taken it and reformatted it and basically rewritten it all towards doctors. And his point was that you need to change your mindset from consumer to merchant. So instead of buying courses that we've both done, I've done this a lot. I got a lot of courses that are accumulating dust on my hard drive right now. And instead of being a buyer of all these courses or services or whatever you want to call it, you want to get to the point where you are the creator, or the merchant, or at least you're selling stuff instead of always buying stuff. And it gets you off this perpetual student hamster wheel.
Yeah, you're accumulating assets instead of liabilities. Yeah.
The fish philosophy. Yeah. Teach a man to fish. What is this?
Yes, the filet-o-fish.
Oh, filet-o-fish. Yes, fillet. I am not going to fillet anyone today on this thing. But so what are some of the things, John, that you think about when we talk about, say, ownership versus being self-employed? I mean, I mentioned the one thing that hit me, which was the hours. Now, granted, you may not want to work past, 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock or something like that. But I mean, I can tell you, when I was self-employed in my chiropractic office, there were many nights when I didn't leave the office till 9:30, 10 o'clock, even though my office hours ended at 7 p.m.
And there are many times we have to go off hours to go do something work-related.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is that.
I mean, that does happen because it's an as-needed basis is what we work.
And you miss personal events and business parties and or birthday parties and that kind of stuff.
How many candles? I want to ask you that question. But I think
a birthday party.
Yeah, happy birthday to all of us. But one of the things that I've written down here too is you get to be, you can be a creator, you can be a service provider, but even a service provider is a dangerous thing unless we begin to outsource things to other people. Because after a while, you're going to reach what I refer to as this little ceiling, and you go, ouch.
Well, today, like you said, isn't so much about employee versus ownership as it is so much about working in your zone of brilliance and having other people do the things that you're not great at, or that, you wouldn't mind spending a little bit to get done so that you can focus on what you do best.
So that's ZOB for Zone of Brilliance rather than JOB for just over broke.
There you
go. Okay. hashtag ZOB.
Zone of Brilliance. Yep.
ZOB, not COD or DOA.
Yeah, because we can talk about both of those subjects, but today.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that today. Although I was on a nice little.
Zone of Brilliance is a good one, I think. Today.
Did you? Yeah, Zone of Brilliance. I like. It was on a live today with Telman Kunsen, and I can't remember the yellow feathers name initially. And he was talking about subject lines, and in the subject line of the gentleman, it's Jason. Jason, forgive me for not remembering her last name. And it was the subject line was. There was something to the effect of the casket was to my left. Now, wow, talk about a subject line for an email that gets your interest. Yeah. That was really interesting. So DOA is what got my
pretty good at those.
Head wrapped around there. Great work in that one. Here's going to be the chiropractic example. So the chiropractic example, I had my own office, and even though I was staying in late at night, say 9:30, 10 o'clock, the reality was I had 4 full-time employees. Oh, actually, not 4 full-time, 3 full-timers and 1 part-timer. But 1.5 of those people, actually 2, the part-timer and the full-timer, were devoted entirely to insurance processing and billing. Now, I could have done that on my own, which is something I saw my dad do in his 67 years of practice. And that was heartbreaking. He'd be out at the country cottage in his swim trunks with a long extension cord to the cabin and working on workers' compensation forms on his electric typewriter while trying to get a tan. Right? And so that was a lifestyle that I just didn't want. And it may have been one of the reasons why I even resisted going into the chiropractic profession for so long, because I saw somebody doing everything himself. And in that self-employed situation in the bricks and mortar world, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, and the beauty of that these days is there's so many things that you can automate. Like I know so many chiropractors, massage therapists that have somebody that works at their front desk, but now you can have your schedule automated. My wife has a completely automated schedule. Oh, yeah. A lot of the insurance stuff is even easier to do. It's more automated. So a lot of things technology can help us with. And then there are those things that only people can help us with. And then it's all about finding the right people who can help you with the things that, and I always love the phraseology that, you should be doing the things that, I don't remember who said this, but it's always kind of stuck with me. If it costs you under $25 an hour, you probably shouldn't be doing it yourself.
Right.
If it's more than that, then maybe you should consider doing it yourself. You should do it yourself for a while until you're, making way, way more than that. So I always love that rule of thumb, kind of getting started. If it was something that cost me more than $25 an hour to do, I'd probably do it myself for a while and then eventually start to look to outsource it.
Well, and I'm going to come back to this little sticky later because it's been sticking in my head, which is that's the reason why we have VAs. It's why we have coaches, why we have consultants.
Sure.
So thank you, 3M, for Post-it notes. We have suppliers, so we don't have to make our own office supplies.
Yes, that too.
That's also. Man, I'm going to see if I can do this because this is something that, the beauty of live is sometimes we screw up royally. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that right now? Oh, yeah. I can see that right now. That's not bad. So it's the difference we talk about between doing it yourself versus something that is done with you, which we see a lot of coaching programs offering folks. And but even that's DWY, not DWI, as we talked about before we got on air today. And then moving from the done with you to the point where actually, instead of you moving from done with you to done for you, I really like to think of moving from doing it yourself straight on to done for you.
Sure.
Because why should we really be learning everything when there are experts out there who can actually help us? Whether it's coaches, consultants, VAs, you name it.
I think the only reason you want to at least do it a couple times yourself is so that you can enter it into a process that you'll have that you can use to replicate over and over again. And that's the one thing that I think that most people fall short on is that they don't develop the processes so that they can hand something over to somebody and they can run with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only time you'd still have the kind of done with you in the middle, but there should be, like you said, there really should be that quick jump to do it yourself to done for you.
It goes straight to it. Eliminate the middleman, which is putting you in the middle may not be a good idea. But I will say this. I've purchased a number of different courses over the years, these 1K, 2K, 5K courses that have enabled me to become what Cy Sims used to refer to as an educated consumer. So that when I do find somebody who I want to outsource to, I know enough about it to be dangerous to their BS. They might be sending to me.
Well, you and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
The simple fact that most people just have no idea what's even involved in a particular process.
Yeah.
And so how can you make a good judgment on it if you haven't done it once, tried it once, figured out what's involved in doing it, so then you can kind of go from there with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and that's one of the most important things is, as we give out information to people in terms of education, as you give and give and give, you do create people who are much wiser consumers in the online world because despite the fact that we live here, there's a certain number of people who don't necessarily fulfill things in terms of the results category.
Yeah. And, you see more and more playbooks from different people on how to do things that they really do help a lot, because in our world, we love those things. We like to show our potential clients and then have them look at and go, well, there's way too much that needs to be done there, and it's not my zone of brilliance. So half of it is realizing that it's not your zone of brilliance, and that's what those things are really great for.
ZOB, baby. I'm going to use that hashtag all over the place.
You're welcome. It's a good one.
Well, so one of the things that we were talking about, ownership versus being self-employed. Yeah. The self-employed person does everything themselves. Now, maybe they outsource a few tasks here and there, but by and large, they are working in the business on a regular basis in production.
Mm-hmm.
If you're self-employed, you're employed, means that you're producing things. So one of my little stickies here that came out of this was I was trying to come up with analogies when Maggie and I had this conversation. And one of the analogies was, it's the difference between let me put it up here so I can, between the one-man band where you play all the instruments versus being the conductor or the music director, where you have basically outsourced the music production to the players, those who actually use the instruments. You like that?
A good analogy.
Okay. I worked on it. I tried to get there so that we become, so as business owners, we become the conductors of the symphony. We've got the vision in our mind. We know what the whole thing should sound like, but we don't have to play the oboe, the bass clarinet, the violin, the viola, and everything else and hit those drums, because we have other people who can do that for us.
Although it would be pretty cool if you could do them all at the same time.
Well, yeah, but some people do that in studios, where they sing 5 tracks of music, or they produce everything else in there. So I want to bring this back again. Oh yeah, I can. Cool. Problem is I go from one screen to the other and I can't see what it is. So I put this down here because I was saying, it's like the self-employed versus owner. Whoops, I got to bring that down a little bit more. Yeah. So the difference between self-employed is where you merely have just a bigger job between being the owner, and you have to strategically employ other people, whether they're your VAs, your consultants, your coaches.
Right.
And the do-it-yourself thing is the self-employed person. Leveraging the power of others, and outsourcing, as we've said, is a great way to leverage your ability to get things done. And yeah, you're the music director, the conductor, and these people, the members of the orchestra, or the members of your team, are not necessarily always purely employees. They may have a profit sharing involved, or they may be independent contractors. And even though they're independent, there's got to be some sort of a shared vision and a willingness to work together. Otherwise, you're going to have discord and chaos. And what you're talking about here, John, it's the SOP. It's a standard operating procedure, which I had here. Also, symphonic orchestra playing, or your standard orchestral procedure if you were indeed the conductor of the show.
Indeed.
So anyway, so that's some of the stuff that I was thinking about today. And anything else that you might have for people? Because we're going to try and keep these things a little shorter. We've got a few people showing up, which is nice to see. And if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to put them down in there.
I think
what kind of stuff do you think about when you say self-employed versus business owner?
Well, kind of going back to our conversation, I think the one thing that I always start with or tell people that I work with to do is write down a list of the things that you're good at, or would like to focus on, would like to be involved in, and then start to figure out the things that would be quickest and easiest to outsource as you go along. So that you can start to really begin with the end in mind, immediately thinking about, okay, this is where I want to focus. This is my, I got to watch where I'm going. I like to talk with my hands like Troy.
Here's what I can do for you, John.
There you go. Hey, look at that. So, so that your zone of brilliance is, this wide.
Yeah.
And then where do you ultimately want to really, really focus in? Because think about how effective you can be if you just focus on that one thing that you're genius at, or a few things that you're genius at, and you can just get everything else taken care of by someone else who's genius at those things.
Well, and some people may see the tendency in self-employed people and entrepreneurs, solopreneurs in particular, is to believe that nobody can do it better than I can.
I know, micromanage.
Well, not just micromanage your own head, where you want to learn every little detail about every little thing that's going on and what's working now.
Yeah.
And you will be listening to probably 30 to 40 podcasts, consuming multiple pieces of written content, watching a ton of videos, being on Facebook Lives, being in YouTube and all these other places, and continually believing that you've got to learn everything such that you never take action and get anything done.
Right.
And I have been guilty of that many times in my entrepreneurial career.
Sure.
That's like, oh. And I think that's the most important thing. With all the knowledge that we gather, how are we going to put things into action? And I come back to, do you want to be the one-man band, or do you want to be the conductor of your symphony? You, as a business owner, are a brilliant director of your business. You've got the vision, you've got the smarts. And by the way, too, when you're outsourcing to somebody, you got to recognize, at least I finally have recognized this, that they may only produce 70 or 80% of the quality of work that you would normally do. But man, I'd rather have somebody doing 70 to 80% of something than me doing all of it.
Sure.
Because you can always come back and correct. If somebody is, for example, transcribing this video into an audio written format, maybe you do have to come back and do a few edits here and there, or you've hired an editor who can go back and take care of those types of things. So you have leveraged your ability as a content producer by, man, I almost produced wetness everywhere here, but I'm doing this thing now. I almost knocked water off to the side.
You better close it in for safety.
Mind you, I spilled coffee on my computer today, but it never hit the keys. It just hit the trackpad and the speaker. So if I sound a little bit like Mocha Java, there's a reason today.
Well, the other thing I want to add is, the 80-20 principle is true here. If we can focus on getting people tightly woven into the 20% of the work that gives us 80% of the results, we just want to do that over and over again. It doesn't really matter that we're getting 100% as long as we're getting the right 80%, that, focus on the end result of bringing in cash.
Yeah, I think 80-20 is one of those things that we like to focus on all the time. And we're never going to be good at absolutely everything all the time. I mean, there's a reason why Michael Jordan was a phenomenal basketball player and not an amazing baseball player, even though he preferred baseball when he was a kid, which I thought was fun. That was really amazing. If you ever get to The Last Dance, it's pretty fantastic.
And one great example of that, I keep thinking, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we're talking about Andy Jenkins came out with Video Boss. I don't know if you remember that. But you could. I
do. I think I've got Video Boss and the whole Genesis digital thing gathering dust on my hard drive.
I know. I've got it too. And I thought of it recently when Andy Jenkins passed away, because I said, oh gosh, I hope that's going to remain, because Video Boss was like everything you could possibly know about video.
Yeah, soup to nuts.
But the challenge is that most people couldn't absorb all of that.
Yeah.
So then Andy Jenkins
overwhelmed.
Yeah, so then he came out with Video Genesis, which was the 20% of video that you needed to know to get 80% of the results.
Yeah,
which was genius. And I think if you have that focus in mind of what do I need to do to have the 20%, to get 80% of the result consistently, that's good. That's a good mindset to have.
Well, and I would argue that 80-20 is one thing.
Look at that.
I'm a bit of a fan. No, I just added that while we were talking. Oh, okay. This is called live video on the fly.
Are you reading my mind?
No.
Okay, all right.
You just said, yes, I did. I am Svengali. I used to teach doctors hypnosis years ago, so I could probably get you to believe that if I just stick you into a trance pretty quickly. But sometimes it's the 80-20 thing is one thing, but I think when we're really zeroing in on things, I think we need to look at the 90-10.
Well, you know, we're all pretty easy to put in a trance because we're all in a trance.
Yeah, totally in trance. Yeah. And I'm not talking, raves or things like that, trance music or house music.
That was something I was laughing at the other day. I was watching a hypnotist, and people were saying to him, "Well, how do you know who to hypnotize? Like, who to bring up on stage?" And he goes, "I mean, I go through some iterations, but he said, you got to understand, almost 100% of you are in a trance anyway."
Well, yeah, it's true.
There's a few select people that are very, and it's having experienced this myself with a couple of friends of ours. When my wife was studying hypnosis, it's pretty cool.
There.
Anyway.
I just go back on
rails there for a moment.
Look into my eyes. We're getting sleepy. So, but hypnosis is great for therapeutic purposes. I think it's the power of an idea planting into the subconscious to the exclusion of all other ideas. And my previous office manager from when I first started in practice back in the late 80s, it was about 89, 1990, when she went to the dentist, she would never use any sort of anesthesia. No Novocaine, no laughing gas, no nothing, no nitrous oxide. So instead, she would just hypnotize herself with the no blood, no pain, no after effects. Feel perfect, no blood, no pain, no after effects. And the dentist would bring in all these other dental associates as well as the hygienist into the office to just watch her do this to herself. And he would just go through everything from fillings to root canals with no anesthesia whatsoever. So it shows you the power of an idea to overcome a lot of limitations that we may have. And one idea that we have, which is very limiting, is that we have to do it all ourselves.
Right. Yep. Most limiting idea that's in our brain.
Yeah. And the corollary to that is if I'm the only one who can fix this. It kind of sounds familiar.
Well, the other limiting idea too is that we're entrepreneurs, but we're all alone in this. Like there's no, we have, and that's another thing. I laugh all the time when people say, "Oh, well, but it's so tough because I'm working and I'm all on my own," and that's so untrue. It's not true.
Well, but you alone.
You've got other people who are involved in the same business.
You alone. Yeah. I alone, you alone are responsible for the results.
This is true.
Of the business that we create. And the buck really does stop here. Hopefully, 7 figures worth of bucks at some point.
But you're not totally alone.
Yeah.
So don't ever feel like
and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the coaches, the consultants, the virtual assistants. And we've had as many as, here in the house, in different places, I think we've had as many as 5 VAs at any one given time, which is pretty amazing. But managing your employees becomes part of your responsibility as a business owner. And many solopreneurs are not necessarily great with people. And that's the reason why they may need help and coaching just in terms of managing folks who are producing the results that you want to see.
And it's probably the reason they left their job.
Yeah.
So
it's a little crazy. So
left your job may be a detriment to you.
Yeah.
In employed, in your own business. So.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about it at some point in the future. How to find the right employees, the right help, things like that. Because there's a lot of characteristics. Yeah, that may be a topic in and of itself. And by the way, if any of you want to have us discuss a particular topic, please put some suggestions here in the Marketing Happy Hour group. You will see, it's a page, the Marketing Happy Hour. You'll find us on Facebook. It's the central location where you're sure to find these broadcasts. Mm-hmm. And if you need help with live broadcasting, this guy over here, John Paduchak, and I have programs. John does a lot of live video training. I am one who is teaching my doctors and other professionals how to do live video in order to extend their reach. And we can talk more about that later too. I think that'd make a great topic once again.
It would make a good topic because I have a ton of doctors that I know that don't know that you and I are working on that project.
I know. It's sort of this is the stealth product creation testing.
And I've mentioned it a couple times, but they don't know that we're working on something for people in the health professions to help them.
I don't know. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of,
or they don't know, even though maybe I've told them.
You may have told them, but we have to tell them again and again and
And
again.
yeah, because you got to hear it like 7 times before it becomes a reality.
Seven, if you're lucky.
More.
I had heard several years ago the number changed to 11, and then I believe there's new research that shows it's 13 times.
It's probably because we all have less attention span than a goldfish.
Yeah. So the attention span of the goldfish is what, 6 seconds or 4 seconds?
Yeah, and we're below that. So how scary is that?
Somewhere there. Oh, but I'm not insulting you, goldfish, with today's just to let you know.
Just to let you know.
That had not occurred to me, even though, hey, squirrel. So with that too, I want to just send out a message to those of you who are interested in having some of your media work done. We do, in our agency, we do social posting, we do live video broadcast production. We do a lot with Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and Instagram lives. John and I are going to both be doing a lot of trainings in the not too distant future for doctors, potentially some other professionals, because I've actually had some financial people who I've spoken to recently who want to do live video broadcasts, which could be very interesting. So we'll say doctors and other high-level professionals might be good for us. And any CTAs, John, for you here? Oh, by the way, if you want to get in, we're going to be producing, I think, I've got one of those things that we're going to give away, our checklist. Remember that one? We will probably be giving away that checklist for live video broadcasting in exchange for your name, email, and if you really, 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 really want to get the inside scoop on things, your cell phone number. But you don't have to give it. It's just something that you might want to when you find out what you can get. So
you might.
That's as much CTA stuff as I got for today. Call to action. Do something. Comment. Like this. Show people you hate this, but at least do something.
Do something. Anything.
Don't just sit there absorbing oxygen. So, all right, that's it for today. Any other words, John, before we hit the road?
No, I think that's
all right.
Good for today. I mean,
so we'll be back. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You said
something.
Okay, good. Don't be rude to your co-host. Rule number 1.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back. We'll be back next week with all of our. Whoa, what is that? I got a flash.
I don't know.
Wow. That was a flash sale that John just did. So head on over.
Come on in.
Come on in. Head on over. He's flashing on air.
Wow.
Wow. We'll see you next week. Thank you, StreamYard, for some really interesting visual effects. All right. We'll be back here. Same bat time, same bat station for the Marketing Happy Hour, which we have recently redubbed the Hump Day Happy Hour, here on the Tube of You, the Book of Faces, and any other place you can think of. All right. See you.